my first question is, surely it must be more than embarrassing and more than simply offering an apology that the Prime Minister, as Theresa May suggested months ago, didn't seem to know what the law of the land was, the laws that he introduced.
I mean, clearly it's not a good situation at all, which is why the Prime Minister and the Chancellor both issued full public apologies yesterday, accepting full responsibility. Those who make the rules should understand them fully and should follow them. And clearly, we've had this fine, which Prime Minister will be paying, the Chancellor will be paying, and I can understand why many of my constituents are very angry about it. However, the question then leads to, what do we do next? And is it appropriate, is it responsible to look to trigger a leadership election and to remove a Prime Minister at this particular moment in time where there is a war in Europe, where there is a cost of living challenge of great proportion? My personal conclusion is that I do not think it is the time to be looking to do that. So I will not be sending in a letter of no confidence in the Prime Minister.
Tom was saying there, though, are you concerned that this might, far from being the end of all of this, might simply be the beginning, that the Prime Minister might get fined time and time again? We know he went to other events at Number 10 that the police are looking into. Are you concerned that, as I say, that this is going to rumble on even more and that the public anger potentially could increase as well?
I think a lot of people have already got angry about this. And I think that the confirmation that there's been a fine might make some more angry. But to be honest with you, I think that when I knock on doors, which wasn't yesterday, by the way, but I did have some of our team were knocking on doors yesterday. Generally speaking, the issues coming up were local issues. And when we did have national issues coming up, it was cost of living and it was Ukraine. Occasionally this comes up, and I suspect it might come up a little bit more now because of what happened yesterday. But I'm not getting the sense that on the doorstep, this is actually preoccupying the minds of the majority of my constituents every moment of the day. Many are very angry about it, and I understand that. But I think they are mostly concerned with those other issues I've just mentioned.
Is that the kind of calculation, if you could, in a sense, Tom, give us an idea of what you and other backbenchers are thinking, is that in the end, obviously what he was done was pretty bad, he's apologised for it, but more importantly, that this isn't likely to sway public opinion that much that it may well cost you, your colleagues, their seats at the next election or votes in the forthcoming local elections?
Well, I seek to represent my constituents as best as I can, and that includes trying to reflect their views as best I can. Of course, views on this, like many other issues, will be divided. Different people will have different views. But I mean, clearly, if I was, knocking on doors and every person or every other person was frothing at, incredibly angry about this and thought that now was the time to plunge into a 2 or 3 month leadership campaign at a time when there was a war in Europe, then obviously that's something I'd take into account. But that is not what I'm picking up on the doorstep at the moment. I think when I talk to people, they are concerned often about their bills. They're deeply concerned about what's happening in the Ukraine, and they want us to help the Ukrainian people as much as we can. And they're interested in things like potholes, they're interested in things like dental appointments, highways, and I think that, some people have said that this war in Ukraine somehow is being used as a sort of fig leaf. I mean, that's not true at all. I mean, it's the most significant development in mainland Europe potentially since the end of the Second World War. And actually, we have had a Prime Minister who I think has led from the front. I think he's galvanised the West. I think he's been singled out by President Zelensky for the allyship that he's provided Ukraine in a moment of need. And that has shifted the minds and the thinking of many members of Parliament. So, and I think it's legitimate that that's been the case. I think it's the Prime Minister has shown the Prime Minister in a very good light. At the end of the day, having a Prime Minister who can lead from the front on those sorts of international issues is of importance to many people.
Yeah, in saying that, just very finally, Tom, on this, because I know it's got some people animated, not least of all on Twitter today, this idea about the war in Ukraine and whether it should be impacting on our politics here. I mean, people have pointed out not just what happened during the Second World War, or indeed the First World War, but, Margaret Thatcher was turfed out of office during the First Gulf War. We were actually involved in the First Gulf War. We know that Anthony Eden lost his job during Suez. That was a pretty big foreign policy problem for Britain. I mean, we're not actually involved militarily in Ukraine. The French are having a presidential election at the moment where they could see a very dramatic change in whoever the French president is. And many people say that this has just been used as an excuse by some simply to defend Boris Johnson. And actually, I saw some people today suggesting it was even a bit tasteless in the sense that, the British people aren't dying in Ukraine. It's a bit unfair to kind of pick up the baton on behalf of the Ukrainians and claim that we're so important we can't look at what's happening at home.
Well, I think we all saw a Prime Minister in Kyiv at the weekend, and we saw the members of the public in Ukraine going up to him, and we heard what they said to him. We saw the way in which President Zelensky embraced the Prime Minister. We can come to our own conclusions about whether that's tasteless. We can come to our own conclusions about whether that's a fig leaf. It didn't look like that to me. Not at all. And when we look at these other examples, Neville Chamberlain was pushed out because of a failure of foreign policy. He was pushed out because of a failure of appeasement as a strategy. When we look at the Suez Canal, he was pushed out because of, with regards to this war in Europe, the Prime Minister has widely been acknowledged to be doing a good job, so he wouldn't be being pushed out for that. He'd be pushed out for being something completely peripheral to the foreign policy issue at hand. With regards to France, well, they've got it enshrined in their constitution that they have an election at a particular time. This is their presidential election, and they're cracking on with it. We're not in that position. We're in a different position. But I think it's rare that you've got so many crucially important issues bubbling up at the same time like they are at the moment. And I think we stick with the Prime Minister. I don't really know what else there is to say about all of this issue to do with fines and parties. We know it's made a lot of people angry. We know it's not good. What else is there to say?
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.